Kia ora class. This video we're going to talk about setting the brief and writing the specifications for your conceptual design. So looking at your Teams page here, go into your student resources and you need to download a copy of the conceptual design book. So I've already opened up the document for us. So the first step for you guys is to choose your option. So your option 1 was to design an e-bike. Option 2 was to design a custom bike, and option 3 was to design a drift, trike, or go-kart. It does say here that you will need to organize the purchase of your go-kart kit, e-bike kit, or bike components yourself. So make sure you decide on what you want to do. Most of you already have done that, which is great. So now you can start writing the brief. So I'm going to show you an example of how to write it for a custom bike because most of you have chosen that as your option. So a situation or context is a transport. So we're really thinking about making conceptual designs for transport. So option 2, design a custom bike for transport. The first thing you need to do is this issue, need, or opportunity statement. You need to answer the 5 questions here: what, who, why, where, and when. So what are you making? Who's it for? Why is it needed? Where will you use it? And when will it be completed by? So this example here, I've said I'm going to design a custom bike to commute to and from work. It'll be inspired by the aesthetics of the Triumph T120 bobber motorcycle. It's going to be used mainly on public roads but with some off-road capability, and it needs to be completed, the prototype that is, by the end of term 3. So I was really thinking about biking to and from work more often instead of using my car so much. I'm sort of thinking about climate change and sustainability. How can I help with that? So that was the reason why I'm going to design a custom bike. So you guys need to think about what your option is and writing what, who, why, where, and when for your option. So once you've done that, you need to break that down into a list of attributes or design features and what the priority is for each attribute and your design requirements. So I've written some examples, some attributes for the custom bike. If you were choosing the go-kart, you probably want to enter in the engine specifications here, the engine attributes. So that means, what size engine do you need for your go-kart? And you might want to think about adding the fuel tank and maybe a gearbox into your attributes. And to find design requirements for that, that means you need to look at the go-kart kit in your student resource folder and see what sort of attributes those kits have, or find your own supply online. Anyway, back to the attributes for a custom bike. So cost, they're broken down into social attributes, aesthetic attributes, or functional attributes. So cost is really a social attribute, meaning you need to create your design to a certain budget. So if you make your budget too expensive and you go over your budget, you're going to not be very successful. So be realistic about your budget. Talk to your parents or your main stakeholders and figure out what your budget is, and you need to stick to that. So my budget, I'm going to say design requirements must be designed and built for under $150. So to be $150. So that's my priority, and I'm going to make that a high priority. So 1 is the highest, 5 is the lowest. So I'm going to make that a 1. So that probably means I need to source some of my parts secondhand from the Resource Recovery Centre or via Facebook or Trade Me, and I might buy some new bike components online. The frame, so that means what type of material and design are you going to use for your frame. So if I want to make my bike lightweight and strong, I'm probably going to use some EW40 mild steel tubing. Some of you might be able to recycle or reuse parts of a frame from an old bike that you get. So that would just be chrome moly or steel or aluminium. Just bear in mind if you're using aluminium, it's pretty hard to weld, so you might want to stick with using mild steel for this project. The style, I want mine to be, that's really about the look of your design. So that's an aesthetic attribute. So how do you want your conceptual design to look? So I want mine to look like a Triumph T120 bobber. So I'm going to say so when I come up with my conceptual designs, my sketchwork, I want to be sketching in the style of those old motorcycles. And that for me is going to be a reasonably high priority, the look of it. And the frame, yeah, it has to be made out of that stuff, so I'm going to give it a 3. The wheels, I've said that I want it to be used on-road and off-road, so I'm going to make this, I'm going to give it some 26 by 4-inch wheels. So that's those tyres that are slightly fatter than normal mountain bike tyres, so that means it can ride off-road a little bit easier, and I'm going to give that a medium priority. So the rest of that, you need to go do the rest. So decide what type of brakes that you want for your conceptual design. Maybe you want to go with standard caliper brakes or disc brakes. It all depends on what your budget is. Durability, how strong do you want this thing to be? Strength. So think about how strong the frame needs to be to hold your weight. Gearing, important for go-karts or bikes. Think about what type of gears you want to have. If it's just a normal bike, you probably want to go off your standard 18-speed gears with front and back derailleurs. Forks, I've said it's an aesthetic attribute. So, I mean, if I'm going for this motorcycle style, I probably want to use some special custom-made forks rather than what I'd find on a bike. Suspension, again, do you want to use suspension on your front and back forks, or are you just going to use no suspension? So you need to go through each one of these attributes. These are guidelines or rules you're setting for your own project, so it's completely up to you how you set these attributes and rules. And this is what you're going to use to measure how successful your conceptual design is. In the next video, we're going to cover the other side of the page, which is stakeholders and risk management.